Precious Sangha, dear Dharma brothers and sisters, on behalf of Pure Land and Friends of Saraswati Abbey, I would like to welcome and thank you all of you for attending Venerable Children's public talk on Practicing with Joy and Courage, which is Chapter 7 of Shantideva's Engaging in Bodhisattva Deeds. Now, while we wait for Venerable Children to arrive, we have a few announcements to make. Number one, Venerable Children's Dharma books are available by suggested donation at the books table at the back of the Dharma hall. Right? Please feel free to browse the books before and after the talk. Number two, Venerable Children and the Monastic of Saraswati Abbey will be doing the Lama Chopa Guru Puja on 25th January 2020, which is the first day of Chinese New Year, and dedicating the merits especially for people who make prayers requests. The puja involves making extensive offerings to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arahats, and the entire lineage of the spiritual mentors, and generates lots of merits. You can request prayers for speedy recovery, good health and long life, removing obstacles and bringing success, harmonious relationships, good rebirth, etc. You can get the prayer request from our volunteers at the books table. Please write your request clearly and legibly so that it can be read out at the puja. Saraswati Abbey is planning to build a new 2-story Buddha hall that will allow many more people to learn and practice the Dharma in the West. To help to create the merit for the Buddha hall, the Abbey invites friends worldwide to do the Shakyamuni Buddha practice, recite and Buddha's mantra, and help to accumulate 1 million Buddha mantras by Vesak 2020. So join in and learn more about how to support the new Buddha hall at the books table. And every Saturday morning, Venerable Children gives a live stream teaching on the foundation of Buddhist practice, and a group of Singapore Dharma friends come together to watch and discuss it. You are invited too, so learn more and sign up to join us at the books table. Now that the talk is about to begin, she's not here yet, although, please switch off your, okay, she's here. Okay, please switch off your mobile phones or switch them to silent mode, and please do not take photos during the talk as this is distracting to Venerable. Okay, there will be a Q&A session after the talk, and please raise your hand if you would like to ask questions, and we will pass you the mic. You can also write your question clearly on a piece of paper and pass it to our volunteers. Now, I still need to give a brief introduction to Venerable Children, the founder and abbess of Saraswati Abbey. Venerable Children is well known and well loved here in Singapore, as she has shared the Dharma here with us for over 30 years. She is an author, teacher, and the founder of Abbess of Saraswati Abbey, a Tibetan Buddhist training monastery for Western nuns and monks in the US. Venerable Children has studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Senchop Senkong Rinpoche, and Kyagye Zopa Rinpoche. She teaches worldwide and is known for her practical and humorous explanations of how to apply Buddhist teachings in daily life. She is also involved in prison outreach and interfaith dialogue. She has published many Buddhist books on Buddhist philosophy, and her most significant current project is actually co-authoring a multi-volume series of teachings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Library of Wisdom and Compassion. The 4th volume, Following in the Buddha's Footsteps, came out in October. You can actually find out more about Venerable Children, Saraswati Abbey, and hundreds of Dharma teachings on thubtenchildren.org and on saraswatiabbey.org. So without further ado, brothers and sisters, please rise and put out your hands together to welcome Venerable Children. So after Venerable makes 3 prostration to the Dharma, to the Buddha, you can make 3 prostration if you wish to. True prostration to the Venerable.
So, welcome everybody. Okay, so we have 2 nights now to spend with Shantideva, who's one of the great 8th century Indian sages. And his book, which in English has the titles translated in several different ways. One way is Engaging in the Bodhisattva's Deeds, is a real classic that is one of my favorite texts, and I think one of His Holiness Dalai Lama's as well, because he's taught it quite often, and I've received the teachings from him a few times. And one thing I really like about this text is Shantideva is completely straightforward and to the point, and he doesn't pull any punches, and he doesn't go, "Oh, sweetheart, I know it's so hard to practice the Dharma. Just try a little bit." He doesn't talk to us that way. You know, what we see in his writings is he's kind of talking to himself, but he's actually talking to us. And being, like I said, very straightforward, so that we really have to look at our own minds, you know, and look very clearly at what creates the causes of happiness and what creates the causes of suffering, and to stop rationalizing, justifying, making excuses for all our bad behavior, but instead to just kind of step up to the plate and transform our mind and make use of our life. Thank you. So I really love this text. So I've been teaching it in Singapore for a number of years. I think maybe we started around the year 2000, or I'm not sure, but for quite a while. Some of you may have come since the very beginning. Yeah. And so we've gone through chapter by chapter by chapter, and now we're on chapter 8, which is the 8th out of 10 chapters. And chapter 8 and chapter 9 are the real, how do you say? You know, it's like, okay, let's really get down to the practice now, okay? Well, the whole book is like that, but especially 8 and 9. Chapter 8 is about generating bodhicitta. The whole book is about that, but particularly here, overcoming our self-centered attitude, because that's the biggest hindrance to developing the bodhicitta being the aspiration to attain full awakening for the benefit of all beings. Yeah. So clearly, if we want to work for the benefit of all beings, being selfish doesn't fit into the picture. But, as Shantideva continuously points out, our selfish mind actually is one of the major causes of our misery. So, although our selfish mind pretends to be our ally and look out for ourselves, in actual fact, it causes misery. So we'll get into this as time goes on. Okay? So I just want you to bear in mind, since we're starting chapter 8, that there were 7 chapters before this. Okay? So it's not like what we're hearing now is what you do as a beginner. Okay? So as much as you can take in and put into practice, that is excellent. But realize that a lot of what you're learning, first you're going to have to spend some time just understanding it conceptually, yeah, and trying to figure out what it really means before you can actually put it into practice. And even when you put it into practice, because our self-centeredness is it's such a long-standing habit, we're not going to be able to get rid of it automatically. Okay? But we keep trying, and we keep looking at these things and going deeper and deeper gradually over a period of time. Okay? And so especially the instructions that we're going to get at the beginning of this chapter, yeah, because he's going to talk about going and meditating in solitude and, not getting involved with childish people who do worldly activities. He's talking not to a beginner in the Dharma, and he's not talking to somebody who has a family, who, has to support their family. He's talking to somebody who has been practicing the Dharma for a long time, yeah, and, very well may have been a monastic, and is now ready to go into retreat and do some very deep meditation. Okay? So this is important to understand, because sometimes people come to Buddhism and we hear about, the great yogis and yoginis go and do solitary retreat in the cave. And we say, I guess I better do that too. Yeah. And, they've been to 2 or 3 Dharma talks. Or even they've practiced for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, or maybe even 20 or 30 years. So, you have to be at a certain level in your practice before you are prepared to do this. Yeah, we sometimes get this kind of glamorous thing of, I'm going to be a great yogi and get me to the mountains, and I want a nice cave, Please aircon in the summer, heated in the winter, hot water on demand, and if they deliver McDonald's, it's even better. Okay? So, we have this kind of fanciful idea, but we're still very, very attached to the things in our life. Yeah? So first we have to really work at those very gross attachments. So many of you I see in the audience were there over the weekend when we talked about the 8 worldly concerns. Yeah, and I hope you didn't try and forget about them as soon as you could. Yeah, because it's really essential to remember them and see their disadvantage, and then learn the antidotes and practice those. Yeah. Many people do not like looking at that part of themselves. They come to the Dharma, and it's like, I want light and love and bliss. Isn't the Buddha's teaching supposed to bring me awakening? That's what I want, with just enormous bliss in my own life, no problems. Yeah, and so they want that ASAP, and without having to exert much energy. Okay, but as I was explaining over the weekend, we need to put in a lot of time to familiarize ourselves, and a lot of joyous effort. Not just effort like, I gotta get to that meditation cushion. But, I have a precious human life. I am so fortunate. I want to practice the Dharma. Okay? So all these kinds of aspects of our mind and different attitudes, they take a while to develop. Yeah. So learn them and learn how to develop them, and then do it in a steady way. Yeah. If you get these fanciful ideas, like many of us who were the Lama's initial students did, then it's not going to work. Because many of us, when we came along to the Dharma in the 70s, and the Tibetans hadn't been out of, they weren't in exile for that long. They were just beginning to teach Westerners, and they taught, and we were so inspired by the teachings, and we all thought, we want to stay in retreat, because we heard the stories about Milarepa and all the great people. I want to do retreat, and I know for myself, I went to Asia because it was difficult to find places to study in the US in those days. And I had in my mind, I was going to stay in Asia, never go back to the US, and I was going to go into long retreat and get enlightened. Yeah? And most of the people in my cohort, we all had the same idea. It's just, because we were doing some shorter retreats, a few weeks or a month or, 3 months, something like that. And we had some experiences, and we thought, okay, this is what we're going to do. Let's just sit down, get enlightened, got that done, check it off our list, and then go on. Okay? And then we were very surprised when our teachers sent us out to work in Dharma centers, because we all wanted to do retreat. We didn't want to work in Dharma centers. Yeah. But our teachers were quite aware that we needed to accumulate merit, we needed to purify, we needed to receive other teachings and really practice those other teachings. That we weren't really ready to go and sit in a cave somewhere. Precisely because we wanted that cave to have aircon in the summer and heating in the winter and, pizza delivery and everything like that. And that when you have that kind of mind, you need to do many other practices before you go out for long retreat. If you want your retreat to be successful, yeah. If you just want to sit there and do retreat and say a lot of mantra, your mind may or may not change because you haven't really studied and you don't know how to meditate properly. You can do that, but it really, what do they say? Put the horse before the cart. Yeah. Do things in the order that they need to be done, and it's easier to be successful then. Okay, so with that introduction, we'll do some opening recitations, followed by a few minutes of meditation to quiet the mind. Okay, do we have... Okay, there we go. So,
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
So in studying this text, recall that this is the way all the great Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have practiced. And so in what Shantideva is saying here is he is telling us how he practices. And he's telling us exactly, what we need to do when we're ready to do this in order to really generate the actual bodhicitta and realize the nature of reality and progress along the bodhisattva paths and stages. Okay. So I thought to just read a couple of verses from the previous chapter so you know where we're coming from, where we ended last year, and then we'll start. Okay, so the verse 74 in the previous chapter, which was on joyous effort, says, likewise, in all these situations, I shall acquaint myself with mindfulness. With this motivation as a cause, I shall aspire to meet with teachers or accomplish the tasks they assign me. Okay? So here he's really saying how important it is for us to encounter teachers and then to follow their Dharma instructions. Okay? Now, I could go on for a long time about this whole thing of encountering teachers. But the basic idea is not everybody who says they're a teacher is necessarily a qualified Dharma teacher. So it's very important that when you're looking for a teacher, that you really check out someone's qualities and you examine them for a while and see what they're like. Because who you choose as your Dharma teacher is much more important than who you marry. Because who your Dharma teacher is will affect many, many future lives. And just as you don't just meet somebody, hopefully you don't just meet somebody and then get married. You get to know them, you check out their qualities, you see if they're an ethical person and kind and so forth. So in a similar way, before making that connection with somebody as one of your Dharma teachers, then you have to really check them out. So while I won't go into all of that now, I'll refer you to the book, The Foundation of Buddhist Practice. It's volume 2 of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, that His Holiness is writing. There's copies on the back table there. And if you look at chapters 5 and 6, I think it is, His Holiness talks a lot about, what are the qualities of different kind of Dharma teachers, what things you should look for, how to make a wise selection, and what to do if problems arise later on. Okay? So it's really very important. Don't just get infatuated and say, oh, they said this was a high Lama, ooh, or, oh, there's so much fun to be with. Charisma is not one of the qualities of a good Dharma teacher. Yeah, things like ethical conduct, yeah, that's an important quality. Understanding of the meditation path, understanding wisdom, somebody who's with compassion, somebody who really cares about the students, and they're not just trying to get offerings and praise. Yeah. So His Holiness explains all of this, and it's really important for us to learn that and then choose our Dharma teachers wisely. Okay. Okay, so that was one verse at the end of the chapter. And then the last verse in that chapter said, just as the wind blowing back and forth controls the movement of a piece of cotton, so shall I be controlled by joy, and in this way accomplish everything. Okay? So remember, this is joyous effort. We want to have a happy mind when we're practicing the Dharma. Yeah? And with that happy mind, then we can really accomplish the path. If we don't have a happy mind, then we may be too self-critical, yeah? And we may, if our mind isn't happy and enthusiastic, we need to do more meditation on precious human life, on the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, on the benefits of generating bodhicitta. So we need to contemplate the topics that uplift the mind. Yeah? And then that helps the mind to become happy, and a happy mind finds Dharma practice easier. Okay? So this is pointing to the fact that our happiness comes from inside of us. We usually think our happiness comes from outside. So you might think, oh, if I want to have a happy mind to practice Dharma, then, I better go get some ice cream, and I better go on a vacation to Bali, and, I better go out and do some fun things, and then I'll feel joy, and then I'll get to practice the Dharma. It doesn't work that way, okay? Because all those activities are involving looking at happiness from outside of us, and that happiness we get is very fleeting. It doesn't last very long. Okay? So we need to really learn, as part of our practice, how to make our own mind happy. Yeah? Okay, so now let's start chapter 8. So verse 1. Okay. Having developed enthusiasm in this way, I should place my mind in concentration, for the person whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. Okay? So, having developed enthusiasm, joyous effort is a prelude to doing very continuous meditation to develop serenity or shamatha, or concentration. Okay? So we need these kind of preliminaries, to really prepare our mind. Yeah. And then he goes on to talk about why we need serenity or concentration. Because the person whose mind is distracted dwells between the fangs of disturbing conceptions. Okay. Now, fangs of disturbing conceptions. Okay, fangs we know, yeah? Like someone who's going to bite us or, inject poison or something. So what are these disturbing conceptions? These are the afflictions, beginning with ignorance, clinging attachment, anger, jealousy, arrogance, and so on. And other disturbing conceptions like worry and anxiety and fear and making up stories about all the horrible things that are going to happen to us, or telling ourselves what horrible, hopeless people we are. Okay? So any kind of distorted thought is considered a disturbing conception here, beginning with the ignorance that grasps true existence and going down to, all the thoughts we have when we're mad at somebody. Okay? And why he talks about the fangs of disturbing conceptions is because when we let these mental afflictions and wrong thoughts overwhelm our mind, then we wind up creating a lot of negative karma. We wind up getting distracted from the Dharma path. We become very miserable because all these thoughts of anxiety and fear and so on, they're not realistic, but we believe them and we become quite miserable, and then we can't practice. Okay? So that's why those things are like fangs that are going to, bite us or poison us in some way. Okay? Now, our minds are filled with disturbing conceptions, and we usually don't even recognize them. In fact, we believe most of our disturbing conceptions, which is why one of my books is entitled, Don't Believe Everything You Think. Okay? Because we really need to stop and assess what we're thinking and see if our thoughts are true or if they're just total fabrications. Okay? Like one of the things that we often say, that person made me so mad. Okay? So when we say that, they made me so mad, we believe that. Yeah? My anger is their fault. My anger is their responsibility because they made me angry. Yeah? One time I was in a very difficult situation at a Dharma center, and I desperately wanted to leave, but my teacher had sent me there, and I was getting angry a lot, and I was creating a lot of negative karma. And I wrote to my teacher, and I said, these people are making me create negative karma that's going to make me have a bad rebirth. Can I leave? I want to get away from these people. And my teacher wrote back, and he said, we'll discuss it. I'll be there in 6 months. Okay? So this made me, this was a big lesson for me. Yeah? Because, you know, whenever you start saying they made me mad and my negative karma is their fault, it shows how ignorant we are of the Dharma. Okay, so when I wrote that note to my teacher, I was boasting of my ignorance. Yeah, not the proper thing to boast about. Actually, we shouldn't boast about anything. But, you know, what do we mean somebody else made me angry? Somebody else said something, they did something. Do I have to get angry? Yeah. Every time somebody finds a fault with something I do, is it absolutely imperative that I get angry? Do I have no other choice about what my emotions are going to be? Well, when the disturbing preconceptions are in power, that's what I think. Oh, this person picked out my faults. Yeah, any reasonable person would be furious. Yeah, and if they're not mad, then something's wrong. So my anger is justified. My anger is proper. And the solution to the problem is very simple. Yeah, that person's wrong. And they need to stop making me angry. So they need to change. Yeah? And I believe that, and I think that's true. But it's actually a bunch of hogwash. Do you know what hogwash is? I don't know if you have hogs in Singapore anymore. No, it's you know, hogwash is what is in a pig pen. Yeah? The mud and like awful stuff that's in the pig pen. Okay? I imagine Singapore maybe 100 years ago had hogwash. Now you just have asphalt. Yeah. But, you know, we make up a lot of things that just aren't true. And we need to notice that and then put it down. Yeah? Okay, that's verse 1. Verse 2. However, through solitude of body and mind, no distractions will occur. Therefore, I should forsake the worldly life and completely discard distorted conceptions. Okay? So in the first two lines, through solitude of body and mind, no distractions will occur. Okay, now, if the body is in solitude, here he's meaning doing a solitary retreat, yeah, then you're not going to encounter so many people. And so you're not going to, you know, have to work with them and arrange things with them and deal with all of their stuff, you know. You're going to have less external stimuli to deal with, okay? So that's seclusion of your body. Yeah? When you have seclusion of the body, you don't have to worry if you're going to catch this MRT or the next one. You don't worry about whether you're going to get the promotion. You don't worry if you have enough money to pay your credit card bill. You know, you don't worry because your friend has a new car and you can't afford it. You know, so this kind of distraction is just not there. Okay, so that's the physical seclusion part. But the real seclusion is mental seclusion. And mental seclusion means being secluded from disturbing conceptions, being secluded from afflictions. ignorance, anger, attachment, all these distorted or these disturbing emotions. Okay? So somebody can be physically secluded, you know, and be in their cave, but their mind can still be going 1,000 kilometers an hour with lots of conceptions. Oh, I'm in my cave. This is really cool. Now I wonder what all my old friends are thinking about me. Now they think I'm going to be a great yogi. I've renounced the world. They really admire me. Maybe they'll send up some chocolate cake, you know, and make some offering and you know, write about me in the Straits Times. You know, they'll want to come up and do an interview. You know, young Singaporean becomes realized yogi. Oh, and it'll be about me, you know. So the physical seclusion, you know, you're not so much involved with that, but your mind can be very much involved in all these worldly things, okay? So physical seclusion doesn't mean your mind is secluded. The real seclusion that Shantideva is getting at here is mental seclusion. And what are we trying to be secluded from? The afflictions, the preconceptions, ignorance, and so forth, okay? If we have mental seclusion, then even if we're in the middle of a city, our mind remains calm and focused on the Dharma. Okay, so mental seclusion is the real one we're aiming for. So, yeah, he's saying if we have that kind of solitude of body and mind, no distractions will ensue. So gradually the distractions calm down. It's not that instantaneously that happens. Therefore, okay, to make that happen, I shall forsake the worldly life and completely discard distorted conceptions. So I'm going to forsake the worldly life. Okay? So what does the worldly life mean? It means the 8 worldly concerns. Okay? So for those of you who weren't there over the weekend, I'll just run through them briefly. Okay? And as I told you over the weekend, these 8, my teacher hammered into us from, you know, the beginning. And I'm really grateful for that because he was very, very clear about what is Dharma practice and what is worldly practice. And the presence or absence of these 8 worldly concerns is what is the demarcation line. Okay? So these 8 come in 4 pairs. Yeah? First pair is feeling delighted when we have money and material things, and feeling dejected when we lose those things, we can't get them, somebody else has more than us, our things break. Okay? So we can see quite attached to money and possessions, right? Now, we like to think that we aren't. Yeah. Oh, I'm not attached to money and possessions. You know, come, go, go. I understand that perfectly. But if at the end of the teachings you go out there and your shoes aren't there, then what? Are you going to say, oh, I'm not attached, come, go, go, it's okay? Or are you going to say, who took my shoes? I want my shoes back. My shoes. Who do they think they are, taking my shoes? Okay? So you see, we can talk up a good storm, but they say the proof is in the pudding. So when the actual situation comes, that's when we tell if, we really have the deep Dharma understanding. Okay? So, attachment and aversion. Attachment to money and material things, aversion to not having it. Second one is attachment to praise and approval, and aversion to blame and disapproval. Okay. So basically, we want to hear sweet, ego-pleasing words. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, isn't that what you want? Just to hear people say, "You're so wonderful." Yeah? You're so intelligent. You're so artistic. You're such an excellent practitioner. I love being with you. You really inspire me. You're so unique. You're not like anybody else. Yeah? And, please be my friend because you inspire me so much. Yeah? Don't you want to hear words like that? And I appreciate what you do. Every job you undertake, you do it very well, very methodically. You don't leave anything left undone. And you always have such a good motivation. I think that you're almost a bodhisattva. No, actually, maybe you are a bodhisattva. Yeah? Because you're so kind and compassionate. Nobody else is like you. Right? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if that's the kind of stuff you heard all day long? Yeah? Okay. So we're very attached to that. It's like, someone starts with a little bit of praise and it's like, don't stop now. Yeah, keep it coming. But we don't like blame and disapproval. Who do you think you are acting like that? Yeah. Don't you realize how things are done here? We don't act like that. What you're doing is totally unacceptable. I gave you responsibility and you didn't fulfill your responsibility. And you always neglect it and you never come through. And even if you try to do something, you boggle it all the time. Some of you are looking really upset. Yeah? Okay. So, we don't like to hear those kind of words, do we? No, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear the nice things. So when we hear the nice things, we get very attached. We want more. When we hear the criticism and the blame and the disapproval, we get really upset. And we may get upset and then get angry and blow up at somebody. Or we may get really upset and just withdraw and think, I really am a horrible person. This person said this to me, and it's true. I really am incompetent. Yeah? But we hate those words. And somehow we want all the praise, and we do whatever we can to get it. But we're not always successful. And we don't want the blame and disapproval. We do everything to avoid it, and it keeps coming. Yeah, the world is not fair. Yeah, what else is no? Yeah, who are you going to complain to that the world's not fair? Yeah, this is all created by our karma. Yeah, you want to complain that the world's not fair? Complain to your previous lives. Because our previous lives are the ones that created the negative karma that's bringing the present effects. Okay? So, that's the second pair. Yeah? Attachment to praise, aversion to blame. Third pair, attachment to a good reputation and aversion to notoriety or a bad reputation. So the difference between reputation and praise is what people say to you individually, praise and blame. Reputation and notoriety is what a big group of people think of you. Okay, so many people who you don't even know, but word gets around, oh, he's like this kind of person. Yeah. So we want a good reputation so that whenever our name comes up, people just smile and shine and say, what a wonderful person. Yeah, they do so much good in the world, or they're such a great athlete, or whatever it is, and we want to be known in whatever group we are in as the best. Okay? So within our family, we want all the family members, even 12th cousins 14 times removed, to think that we are wonderful. Okay? And we don't want a bad reputation. We don't want to be written up in the newspapers about, this guy is a crook. Yeah, and this guy's a cheat, and this guy did this and this and this. Okay? We want it written in the newspapers about, that what a gift to humanity we are. Okay? So that's attachment to good reputation, aversion to bad. And the last pair are attachment just to pleasurable sensations and aversion to bad ones. Yeah, so we want to see beautiful things. We come in here. This place is beautiful, isn't it? You look at the altars, and they're so beautifully done, and there's twinkly things and sparkly things, and it's a very beautiful place. Yeah, so you like seeing beauty. Yeah, you don't want to have the teachings in an alleyway behind a restaurant. Okay? We like to hear nice sounds. So we like to hear the music that we like, not the music that our parents like. Okay? We want to smell nice things. Okay? We want to taste good food, not burnt food, not food that's too salty or too sweet, but just perfect. Yeah? We want nice physical sensations. Yeah? So we want the temperature to be good. Not too hot, not too cold. Yeah, when they're blasting the aircon, we don't like it. When they don't have the aircon on, we also don't like it. Okay? When we lie down on the bed, we want the bed to be comfortable. Not so soft that our back hurts, not too hard so our back hurts. Yeah. We want to be touched like this. Other people stroking us. We don't like that. Okay? So, all the time we're looking for pleasure from outside. Yeah? And to avoid any kind of unpleasantness. Okay? So this is what we do all day long. Basically, from morning till evening. Yeah? Do you think, when you look at your life, is that what your life usually revolves around? Yeah? The alarm goes off in the morning. I don't like that sound. Oh, but I can have coffee. Okay, now I'll get up. Oh, I gotta go to work. Ugh. But today's payday and I'll get some money. But today at work I have to deal with that colleague who is so unpleasant. But then afterwards I get to see my boyfriend. Okay? So we become like emotional yo-yos all day long, you know? Something nice and we go up, something not nice and we go down. Really? Yeah? You have yo-yos in Singapore, right? Yeah? Remember we used to play with them when we were kids? Yeah, I could get them to go down. I had a hard time getting them to go up. Somehow I never learned to do the yo-yo properly, you know? But you know, these are the distorted conceptions, this kind of attachment and clinging and craving and dislike and antipathy, you know? These are the kinds of things that are the distorted conceptions. Now, why are these distorted conceptions and mental afflictions, why are they to be avoided? What's wrong with getting mad? What's wrong with being greedy? Okay? Instead of saying, what's wrong with it, it's better to say, what are the results of being angry? What are the results of being greedy? Because when we say, what's wrong with this, then we're thinking in very black and white terms, and we're not really understanding something well. If we say, what are the results of anger? Then we have to think, oh, if I'm angry and then I act in a certain way, what happens in this life as a result, and what happens in future lives as a result? Okay? When I'm greedy, yeah, what happens in this life? Yeah, I cheat people, I lie, I take more than a fair share, I cover up things, I hoard things, you know, I'm quite miserly. That's the result of being, you know, of being greedy. Is that the way I want to be as a human being? Yeah. Do I want to act, to lie and deceive people to get what I want? Yeah. Okay? So if we start to really say, you know, what are the results of something, then that makes us understand, and then we can choose whether to avoid or engage in a certain mental attitude. Okay? Okay. So then, so that's verse 2. We're speeding along here. Verse 3. Worldly life is not forsaken because of attachment to people. And due to craving for material gain and the like, therefore, I should entirely forsake these things, for this is the way in which the wise behave. Okay? So, attachment to people, attachment to material things, craving for money or reputation, any of that stuff, that does not help us forsake worldly life and wrong conceptions. In fact, it keeps us deeply entrenched in worldly life and in all our wrong conceptions. Okay? So exactly what we think is happiness as worldly beings, yeah, money, property, good reputation, praise, lots of sense pleasure. Yeah, this is what they're saying is worldly craving that keeps us bound in samsara. And all of our anger and antipathy that we think is justified because somebody interfered with our getting our material things, or they criticized us, or they talked bad behind our back, or they, made unpleasant sensory sensations for us. Yeah? And then we get mad, we may slug them in the face, we may kick them out of the house, we may scream at them or insult them. We think that's like, the way to happiness. Okay. But if you really think deeply, yeah, and really examine your life, yeah, when I've been angry in the past, what's happened? Just even in this life. And then what kind of actions that I have done, and if we believe in karma, what are the results of those actions going to be in future lives? Yeah. When I've been attached to material things in the past, look at your life. What's the result been? What do I do? Yeah? Do I try very hard to get what I want and then get depressed when I can't? When I can't get it? Do I get frustrated easily? Am I dissatisfied? I got what I wanted, but it still isn't good enough? So, really examine your life and see what the immediate results are, and then also think about the actions you do motivated by that attachment and aversion, and what kind of karma you're creating and what you'll experience in future lives. Okay? And if we do that, then giving these things up is not a problem. Because whenever we realize that something is harming us, it's not a problem to give it up. But when we don't do this meditation, and instead we just say, I shouldn't be attached, I shouldn't be angry, that doesn't work, because there's no wisdom based on investigation in telling ourselves what I should and shouldn't do. Yeah? And then we start to get very uptight inside because we have an image of what I should be like and what I should not be like. But I don't know, I really want to do all those things. Yeah? I really want to do, and I want to get all those things. And what's wrong with it anyway? Okay? So if we don't really investigate, then it's very difficult to sincerely practice the Dharma, because our mind still wants that old stuff that doesn't really bring true happiness, but that we're very attached to anyway. Okay, so that's why we need to stop, investigate our own experience, and then we can determine, do I want to continue acting that way and thinking that way, or do I want to give that up? Okay? So it's kind of like, you may have this piece of chocolate cake that looks fantastic. Yeah. It looks great, and it's like, I want this, and don't you get in the way and eat it before I do, because I want this chocolate cake, I want this happiness. But then you start to look at the chocolate cake closer, and it smells kind of strange. Yeah? And then you look inside, and it's not all pure chocolate. There's some kind of dark, unpleasant smelling stuff inside. Okay? So when you really see the disadvantages of this chocolate cake that looks so good. But when we investigate, we see it's not so good, and it'll probably make us sick. Then there's no problem in throwing it out. Yeah? Because who wants to eat something that's going to make you sick? Okay. But if we don't examine, then, oh, it looks like a good piece of chocolate cake. And then, oh. Okay. So this is why the Buddha always tells us to investigate. He always says, don't just accept what I say, but you investigate it. You check it out. Okay? So nobody else can check things out for us. We have to do that ourselves. Okay? Yeah. If we do it, we experience the benefit. If we don't do it because we're lazy, then we'll experience the benefit or the disadvantages of getting deceived again and again. Okay? Okay. So therefore, I should entirely forsake these things being the 8 worldly concerns. For this is the way in which the wise behave. Okay, so the wise, yeah, who are the wise ones? Are your friends the wise ones? Are your parents the wise ones? Are your school teachers the wise ones? Who are the wise ones? Who are the wise ones? Yeah. They're the really sincere Dharma practitioners, aren't they? They're the people who have realizations, or who, even if they don't have the actual realization, are very steeped in the Dharma, and their whole outlook on life is immersed in the Dharma. Those people are the wise ones. And when we ask them for advice, they'll give us good advice. When we ask childish people who don't know the Dharma, or who know the Dharma but don't live by it, their advice is going to be deceptive, and we're going to run into trouble. Okay? So in the future verses, we're going to come across the words, the childish, a lot. Okay? So the childish, it doesn't mean little kids, yeah, who are like 3 and 4 years old and have temper tantrums. The childish means us. Okay? Yeah, assuming you're not a very sophisticated practitioner with realizations or close to realizations. Okay? So we need to look at how the wise behave and how the wise ones think and what they choose. Yeah. And if we're going to listen to anybody's criticism, instead of listening to the criticism of childish beings, we should listen to the criticism of wise beings. Because, if they think something is disadvantageous, they know what they're talking about. Childish beings are confused, like us. Okay? So we'll get into this thing as we go along about what the childish are and who the wise are. Yeah. And this is actually quite a lesson, because we talked about it over the weekend too, that, when we want praise and approval, we don't like blame and disapproval, okay? But when we rely on the praise of the childish, what happens? childish living beings who don't know the Dharma, who don't have good ethical conduct, who don't know what causes happiness and what causes suffering on a karmic level. Yeah. Those people will give us bad advice. Yeah. We want to go on a Dharma retreat, and they say, "Why are you going on a retreat? Yeah, you should go on vacation. Yeah, go to Bali. There's great food. Yeah, you can go swimming in the beach. You can go walking in the mountains. Yeah, you might even be able to pick up some handicrafts and bring them back here and sell them for a profit. You know, if you go to a Dharma retreat, what are you doing? You're just sitting there looking at your navel. Yeah, go to Bali instead." So these people may be our friends and relatives, and they wish us well, but because they don't have the right view on life, the advice they give us is incorrect. Okay? The childish. When somebody criticizes me and I get angry, the childish, my friends, say, "Yeah, that person really insulted you. You should be angry. You know, now go do something to give him a taste of his own medicine. Yeah, he talked about you behind your back. You go to his friends and talk about him behind his back. That'll teach him a lesson." Okay, so that's what the childish friends advise us to do. Okay? So, you know, the wise will not advise us to do that. The wise will say, "Oh, you're angry? Yeah? Look at chapter 6 of this book. Meditate on chapter 6 of this book, and your anger will go away. And you'll stop creating causes to be born in the hell realms. And if you don't want to read this book, read His Holiness the Dalai Lama's book, Healing Anger. Or read the book, Working with Anger." Okay? So, Working with Anger was a book I did. It's completely plagiarized from chapter 6 of this book. I admit it. I plagiarized Shantideva. Okay? Shantideva has not filed the court suit yet. Yeah, hopefully he won't. Yeah, but, you know, it's all from this book. Because Shantideva, he's the wise. Yeah, you want somebody wise to follow? Follow Shantideva. When you have a problem, read this book. Yeah. Sometimes what Shantideva tells you what to do is the exact opposite of what you feel like doing, which is why it's an antidote to afflictions. Okay? If his advice was in accord with our anger and greed and resentment and arrogance, then they wouldn't be antidotes to those disturbing emotions. Okay? So, for example, one part of chapter 6, I'm just getting off on a tangent right now, but there's some verses in chapter 6 where he talks about being jealous. Okay? When you're jealous, yeah, what do you want to do? Yeah, you want to get what that person has for yourself. Yeah? Even if you can't get it for yourself, they can't have it. And you want to destroy their happiness because they shouldn't have that. And actually, we should. We deserve it more. Okay? What's the last thing you feel like doing when you're jealous of somebody? Being happy for them. When you're jealous of somebody, do you want to be happy and rejoice at their good fortune, at their good qualities? No, we want to criticize them, and we want the whole world to criticize them. And if anybody praises the person we're jealous of, we get really upset. So what does Shantideva tell us to do as an antidote to jealousy? Rejoice at that person's good fortune and rejoice at their good qualities. It's the last thing you want to do. But if you learn to do it, you'll overcome your jealousy. Yeah. So, the advice from the wise sometimes is, well, put it this way, our ego doesn't like the advice from the wise. Our ego likes the advice from the childish. Yeah? But if we really know what's good for us, it should be just the opposite, shouldn't it? Mm. Okay, we've done 3 verses. Let's have some question and answer now. Or a question at least in comments. Yeah?
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much again. This is my second event, and I'm just so happy to be here, and thank you so much. My question is about attachment to people. So when you were talking about your experience of when you were sent somewhere and you were like, this is horrible, and you asked your teacher if you could leave, what is the expectations for somebody like normal, like somebody who's not enlightened or anything, just a normal person? At which point is it sort of okay to let go? You know, so let's say you're attached. Let's say you're attached to your parent, for example, but all you get from them is you're a horrible child. Why did I even have you? And things like that. Like, at which point do you say, you know, I need my space, and just you need to sort out your problems, and then we can have a relationship. Or it could be a friend who you're trying to help. You know, they're going through some difficult things and they're super negative. You're trying to help them, but it doesn't seem to be working. Or it could be a husband, let's say a husband who's beating his wife or something like that. Like, it's a difficult situation. At which point is it reasonable to say, I'm going to leave. I'm going to let go of this person, even though I'm attached in some way?
That is going to be up to the individual. I can't give when you get to this number 7 on the scale, what's the scale? It's up to each individual. But what I think, in some situations, if you're in an abusive relationship and your husband's beating you, you leave immediately after the first beating. You don't wait for the second one. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Somebody else may say, oh, but I love him, I'll stay with him. That's your decision, but look out. Okay? So people are going to have different decisions about this. But what I think is important is the attitude that we have. Okay? In other words, if we're at a point where the relationship is not helping and there's a lot of negativity in it, instead of just saying, this person is toxic, I gotta get rid of them, I'm cutting off the relationship, I'm not speaking to them again because they are ruining my life. Okay, if you have that idea, did you hear what I said? they are ruining my life. That's comparable to they are making me mad. Is anybody else ruining your life? Yeah. If you stay in a bad situation, that's your choice. Yeah. If you have a lot of anger and hostility, or if you get co-opted into their negative behavior, that's your choice. Yeah. If you are very attached to somebody who's a drug dealer, and you know it's not good, but you don't want to leave them, so you hang around, and then they ask you to, help them deal with drugs, and you love them so much that you help them, and then when you get busted by the police, whose responsibility is that? It's ours. Yeah? So what I think is so important is to look at our attitude. And if we are staying because of clinging attachment, if we're leaving with a lot of anger, then something isn't quite right. I think we need to have wisdom in the situation. And with wisdom, we can decide, do I want to stay or do I want to go? Yeah? If we decide to stay, we take responsibility. If we decide to go, we take responsibility. Okay? We don't blame our misery on somebody else. And we keep the door open, because we may see that the relationship is very difficult now, and it's not helping the other person, and it's not helping me, so we need some space. But that doesn't mean I'm never going to speak to that person as long as I live. Because people can change, and we can change. Yeah? So we may separate ourselves, but we do it with kindness. We do it with compassion, so that both of us stop creating negativity. But if the other person at some point changes and they approach us again, then, we're open to dialogue. We don't say, get out of my life. You hurt me 20 years ago. I don't want to talk to you. Okay? Okay, that makes some sense? Mm-hmm. But I think, so much I hear people say, oh, this person is toxic. Toxic, that's the big word, Toxic. This relationship is toxic. I've got to get out of it because these people are just destroying me. That attitude, it may be a very unhealthy relationship, but talk about it as an unhealthy relationship. Own your own responsibility in it. Yeah? Don't just get like, oh, I'm so fed up and I can't stand them and I'm never talking to them again. That kind of attitude doesn't help anybody. Because then, even if you leave, your mind is still stuck in that situation. Your body may not be, but your mind is. Yeah? So it's really about developing our own wisdom. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yeah?
Thank you, Very Noble. So the question is on one of the, or two of the eight worldly concerns, which is, being motivated by praise, seeking praise, and being adverse to, being blamed, and of course the reputation and disrepute. So on the other hand, we also taught in, the 51 mental factors that, two of the mental factors, the virtuous ones, are developing shame and embarrassment, whereby if we do, some misdeed, we're supposed to feel shame. So, Yes, I mean, and the other one is of course embarrassment. We don't want to, it's kind of motivate us not to do misdeed because on account of shame and embarrassment. And how do we tread the line between this set of teaching and also the teaching on the 8 worldly concerns so that, we can practice properly and not misunderstood the difference between these two sets of teaching?
So there's a big translation problem here.
Sorry.
Okay? No, many people translate those two virtuous mental factors as shame and embarrassment. That's a horrible translation. Because shame, do you think shame is virtuous? There's actually two kinds of shame. There's one shame where you feel, I could do better, but I didn't. That shame's not so bad. But mostly, when we talk about shame, we mean like something is really wrong with me. I am defective inside. I am full of shame. I can't do anything right. That is not the meaning of that mental factor. That's why I say shame is a bad translation. Yeah? How is telling yourself, oh, I'm such a lousy person. I can't do anything right. I'm so ashamed of myself. This is terrible. How is that attitude virtuous? It's totally skewed. Okay? That's not what the mental factor is referring to. So I like to translate that mental factor as integrity. Yeah, integrity is good, isn't it? If somebody has integrity, they have their own well thought out ethical standards, and they want to live according to their ethical standards because they have a certain kind of self-respect. And they don't want to go against what their own values and standards. Yeah, that's what that mental factor means. So it helps you abstain from negativity, not because you feel you're the worst person on the earth, but because you have self-respect and integrity. Okay? So change the translation. Yeah. Then embarrassment. What do we usually think of as embarrassing? I did something so stupid. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, how could I have said that? They saw me like this. Oh, is that virtuous? Yeah. That's not virtuous, okay? So that mental factor, one translation I like is consideration for others. Another translation is a sense of decency, okay? So this mental factor abstains from non-virtue because you know that your words and deeds affect other people, and you don't want to do something that is going to generate negativity in someone else or make them lose faith in the Dharma. Okay? So you care about the effect of your actions on other people, and you don't want to harm them. So you abstain from negativity. Okay? Consideration for others sounds better, doesn't it?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah? Decency sounds better. But embarrassment? Yeah? That doesn't sound, that's not virtuous. Okay?
Thank you, Venerable.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question because those translations are very often used. And they really are not correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If fear is a disturbing conception, what about the fear that is the cause of refuge? The fear of delirium that is the cause of refuge?
Okay. Another good question. Yeah, that depends again on translation. Okay? So the word fear, usually when we think of fear, we think of panic, like, oh no, something really terrible is going to happen. I'm terrified. Yeah? Okay? So then we hear that we should fear non-virtue. So, oh, I'm going to lie. This is terrible. It's awful. I'm terrified of lying. Oh no, what am I going to do? No, that's not good. That's not what the Buddha's trying to get us to feel. Okay? That's all our superstitious mind. Okay? So they translate that term as fear. Yeah, because the term in Tibetan is the same word. They translate it as fear. Okay? What it means is an awareness of danger. Okay? So I'm aware of the danger of lying. Okay? I'm not like quaking in my boots and terrified and crying because I'm so afraid. I'm calm and I'm aware of the danger. Okay? When you're merging on PIE, okay? You're driving your car and you're merging with the traffic. Are you aware of the danger? So that you really look, who's on this side and who's on this. Yeah, you're aware of the danger. Are you afraid? Shaking in your boots, terrified? No, you're not. Unless maybe you're just learning how to drive. Yeah. Or you're the passenger and somebody else is driving and they're just learning how to drive. Okay. So, when we hear the word fear, we have to see in what situation it's in. Similarly, they may talk about fearing death. Again, it's not like, oh no, I'm going to die. I'm so afraid. It's so scary. It's, I'm aware of the danger of dying without having practiced the Dharma. I'm aware of that danger, and that is going to motivate me to do something good. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. Two different meanings of the word fear. Okay. There's many words like this that the way they're translated into English, because there's not a direct match, and sometimes because the translators don't understand our way of thinking in our culture, so the terms come out a little bit funny. Another one of those terms is the term faith. Okay? Because we hear how important it is to have faith on the path. Okay. So when we hear the word faith, we usually think blind faith, don't we? Have faith. Stop. Put down your intelligence, put down your investigative ability, and just have faith. Yeah? So this person looks good, I have faith, I put my faith in them, but I don't check out to see if they're an ethical person. I don't check out to see if they're honest. I don't check out to see if they're knowledgeable and kind and compassionate. I just have faith. That's not what the Buddha's talking about when he says that faith is an important feeling to have on the path to awakening. Yeah, the Buddha's talking about something that is a combination of trust, confidence, and faith. It doesn't mean any of those three words, but it's kind of draws a little bit from each one. What it means is you've analyzed the good qualities, for example, of the Buddha Dharma Sangha. You've studied what the Buddha Dharma Sangha are. You've analyzed those qualities, and you want to attain those qualities yourself. Okay? Or you trust the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha because you've really seen what qualities they have. Or you trust the Dharma because you've really learned about the Four Truths. Yeah? And you see that, dukkha and the cause of dukkha, cessation, the path to cessation, that these are really true. So you have conviction in them, and the faith that comes from conviction. Okay, those are the kinds of faith that the Buddha is talking about. He's not talking about blind faith. He's not talking about somebody has the name Rinpoche, therefore they must be highly realized. No, His Holiness says being a Rinpoche is social status. You have to look at somebody's qualities. Don't just believe because they have the name Rinpoche that they're, sitting up on some throne up in the sky and they can't do anything wrong. Many, some of them may be bodhisattvas, many of them are ordinary human beings, and some of them misbehave. So you need to check out and use your wisdom, okay? Yeah? And then based on that, then you have faith. Then you trust. Then you have confidence. Okay? So, we're going to end the evening now. That was a long answer to that question, wasn't it? So let's just sit quietly for a couple of minutes. Think about what you heard, and then when you go home, think about it some more. And then after that, we'll dedicate the merit. Let's dedicate the merit now.
Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow night. And then the thought just occurred to me, because I'd like to even do more, that maybe Thursday night, I'm supposed to be teaching at ABC. The topic of that talk is unlocking your potential. But that's what Shantideva is telling us to do. So how about Thursday night we also continue with this chapter? Okay? Because this chapter is really, really beautiful. Okay. See you soon.
Thank you once again, Venerable Children, for your precious teachings. Brothers and sisters, we hope that you have benefited and enjoyed from Venerable's teachings. Venerable will be giving a series of other public teachings in Singapore until December 8 and also on December 27. Please inquire about these programs from our volunteers. You can also sign up to join the Dharma group that meets every Saturday morning to watch and discuss Venerable's teaching. If you'd like to receive money pills, Venerable Children will be seated at that position for a while. Please do not request for individual photos with Venerable as time is limited.
Instead of every one of us bow to venerable individually when making offerings, let's offer 3 bows to venerable together now.
Shuchen无上妙菩